Today we are going to look at the Pythagorean Theorem, which describes the relationship between the lengths of the sides of a right triangle. The sides of a right triangle have special names. The legs are the two sides that form the right angle, and the hypotenuse is the side opposite the right angle. In a right triangle, the legs are the shorter sides, and the hypotenuse is always the longest side. Now, what relationship between these sides does the Pythagorean theorem describe? The sum of the square of the lengths of the legs is equal to the square of the length of the hypotenuse. In general, we can say a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Where a and b are the legs of the triangle and where c is the hypotenuse. Let's say we have a right triangle where one leg is 3 inches and the other leg is 4 inches. How can we find the length of the hypotenuse of this triangle? We learned that a squared plus b squared equals c squared, where a and b are the legs of the triangle and c is the hypotenuse. Now the first step is to plug in the 3 for a and the 4 for b. You can also plug in the 4 for a and the 3 for b. The important thing is that you plug in the 3 and 4 into the variables which represent the legs. Don't plug the 3 and 4 into the variable which represents the hypotenuse. The next step is simple. We just have to isolate the c and we're done. So 3 squared is 9 and 4 squared is 16. So we get 9 plus 16, which is 25. And after taking the square root from both sides, we get c equals the square root of 25, which is 5. So the length of the hypotenuse is 5 inches. And we're done with this problem. Let's look at the next example where one leg is 6 centimeters and the hypotenuse is 10 centimeters. How can we find the length of the other leg? Let's write down the Pythagorean theorem again for the sake of practice. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. Recall that the hypotenuse is a variable which stands alone for itself on the right-hand side. So we can write 10 squared on the right-hand side and 6 squared plus b squared, or a squared plus 6 squared on the left-hand side. 6 squared is 36. And 10 squared is 100. The next step is to isolate the b squared by subtracting 36 from both sides of the equation. So we get b squared equals 64. And after taking the square root from both sides, we get b equals 8. So the side b has a length of 8 centimeters. Let's do a quick check with the following questions if you understood the vocabulary of this topic correctly. I really encourage you to pause the video after each question and answer the questions on your own. In a right triangle, how can you tell which sides are the legs and which side is the hypotenuse? In a right triangle, the legs are the sides that form the right triangle. And the hypotenuse is the side opposite the right angle. Let's look at this triangle and answer these 4 questions. Which side is the hypotenuse? The hypotenuse is the side opposite of the right angle. Which side is the longest? The longest side in a right triangle is the hypotenuse. Which side is a leg? The legs are the sides that form the right angle. Which side is opposite the right angle? The hypotenuse is the side opposite of the right angle. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me in the comments. This video is what I did for you. If you want to do something for me, hit the bell button, like, share and subscribe. Thanks for watching and happy learning, everyone.